Hello there friends, CS News Live here. In today's video we've got Monesy joining VP, the main issues with Team Spirit, the Dacha finals and plenty of other exciting CS2 news. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. And I think we shall kick off today's episode with a rather disturbing story. A well-known collector and Steam user MoneyLead, currently ranked 3rd in level, shared how he became the target of an attempted robbery. Yeah, you heard it right. He received multiple threats that his belongings would be stolen and sold, with the proceeds going to various terrorist groups. As a result, the collector has since moved to a new location and temporarily gone offline to protect his life and assets. The estimated value of MoneyLead's inventory is around $170,000, and that's just considering his CS2 skins. He also has a massive Dota 2 inventory, but his profile is currently hidden from the public. Honestly, this situation is hard to even comment on, it's just way too extreme. Let's move away from the intense story and talk about professional CS, specifically the roster changes in ENCE. The organization recently announced the replacement of their coach, Kuben, due to the team's underwhelming performance. ENCE's general manager also commented on the decision, stating that despite Kuben's professionalism and high level of expertise, his playstyle didn't align with the team's intended strategy, leading to the change. To recap, ENCE failed to qualify for the RMR and have won only one of their last 5 matches, losing to teams like Young Ninjas, Koi, Unity and Monte. The team currently sits 26th in the HLTV rankings and 34th in Valve rankings. And honestly, it feels like this might be just the beginning of more changes. After all, even replacing a key figure like the coach doesn't always guarantee better results. Since we mentioned the HLTV and Valve rankings, we have to talk about an interesting idea from Striker, HLTV's editor. According to him, teams should stop paying bonuses based on the HLTV rankings, as the Valve ranking is now far more important for qualifying for the biggest events. And yeah, I remind you once again, he's the editor of HLTV. He also believes that while teams may take some time to adjust to the new Valve rankings, the transition, though difficult and lengthy, will ultimately make things easier for them. And the developers' ranking system is what truly matters now. By the way guys, to stay up to date with all the major events without waiting for a new video, be sure to follow us on Twitter. We share a lot of interesting content there. Some of it doesn't make it to the videos, but anyways, the link is in the description. As we've mentioned before, Valve's ranking is crucial for securing invitations to major tournaments. This got us thinking, how many huge LAN tournaments there have been throughout CS's rise in popularity. You see, back in 2016 there were 15 huge tournaments in a year, and the following year saw an increase by 2. And the number of tournaments continued to grow, with more than 20 huge events held in 2018 and 2019. However, obviously the dark era of LANs began when the global pandemic struck. After 2020, organizers have been trying to return to a regular schedule to host more tournaments, but they haven't quite managed to get back to normal yet, as events were still being held under certain restrictions. But my friends, fortunately, next year will break all the records. We already know about 30 huge LAN events scheduled worldwide for 2025. Just think about it, 30 huge events. And honestly, it feels like just the beginning, but I'm also so sorry for esports players who will have to travel the whole year, not really seeing their families. But I guess it's the job, you know? So we've been mentioning Aquarius quite a bit recently, and in this episode, no exception. But for now it's kinda important, because the data miner discovered a command that if entered will instantly get you VAC banned, and also will end your match on the spot. Once again guys, there's a single console command that will bring you a VAC ban. If you type this command in the console, you will receive an immediate ban, so please do not use it. But the most interesting part here is that no one knows what it does, because it's like not really associated with cheats or anything. Data miners don't know either. It will be interesting to see whether Valve decides to do something about this or just leaves it as it is. Before we dive into the most exciting part, let's discuss the main issues facing Team Spirit. But first, yeah guys, we've noticed that some of you aren't aren't particularly fond of Thorin and other analysts, but we still need to cover what they said, because that's what we do news. You decide what to do with the information. Remember, these are just their opinions, which don't necessarily have to be correct, while everyone is entitled to have own perspective. Now let's get into the key takes. First, according to Maui Snake, Chopper will never have his own era as a captain because the team tends to ignore tournaments outside the majors. In a way, he might have a point. After all, Spirit withdrew from IEM Rio and intentionally skipped some tournaments to focus on practice. However, they did win the BB Dacha, IEM Katowice and Blast Spring Finals. And they also placed 3rd, 4th at IEM Dallas, which makes Maui's statement not entirely accurate. And even so, if you win a major, for example, and a couple of more tournaments, doesn't it make an era? Well, and another interesting point was made by Flom, who said that if Donk doesn't find the entry frag, the team just falls apart. While he's partly correct, it's important to know that many teams operate similarly, with a single player taking on the entry fragger role. In Spirit's case, it's basically Donk, and if he doesn't succeed, they have troubles in attack, and that's kinda obvious. But you know what, guys, there's not so many great entry fraggers in the scene. And if you look, for example, at teams like G2 or Eternal Fire with prominent entry fraggers, it still works the same. If Nico is not in top form, G2 are just cooked. Once again, guys, I remind you that these are just the analysts' opinions, and everyone can interpret them as they see fit. But now let's keep going, or should I say, let's get back to major tournaments. We can't ignore what Professor, another HLTV editor, shared about the secret behind the excellent production quality of tournament operators like ESL and Blast. He says that their success is basically tied to the amount of money they have at their disposal. Smaller TOs often have to spend their limited funds on invites and prize pools, which leads to a drop in production quality. On one hand, that makes sense, but on the other hand, if organizers could allocate even a small portion of their budget to passionate enthusiasts who truly want to create something visually stunning and of high quality, I believe even smaller tournaments could have great production value. And by the way, did you know that PGL are looking for a sound guy on their website? If you're one of them, just go and try to apply. Now to the juicy news. You might remember that we've been talking a lot lately about the strong possibility of Nico joining Falcons in 2025. Along with that, we also mentioned that Monesy might also be leaving the Samurai. Well, it looks like we now have an idea of where he might be heading. A well-known insider from the Eastern European region, Overdrive, reported that Virtus.Pro is planning roster changes, potentially involving 1 or 2 players. And one of the candidates for the departure is none other than Jaime, even though he has an extended contract. According to Overdrive, if Nico leaves, Virtus.Pro will try to buy out Monesy. However, whether they can pull it off remains uncertain, because first, last year they spent a lot of money on electronic, and second, Monesy's contract details are still unknown, which might as well include a lot of money, for the buyout of course. It's also important to know that Electronic will definitely stay on the team, simply because removing him would likely result in changes within the team's executive management, which ties into internal matters. Because, you know, when one of the grand bosses spends a lot of money on Electronic, he might not want him to get kicked, because it was his responsibility. Anyways, Jaime is likely to leave the team for 2 reasons. First, his underperformance with the AWP, which was previously justified by his in-game leadership role. Second, Jaime is no longer the solo captain, which further diminishes his value to the team because Electronic is taking IGL roles sometimes. Moreover, Electronic isn't accustomed to playing with passive snipers like Jaime or Shiro because he spent most of his career playing alongside Simple. This makes Ilya Monesy the best option for VP. Interestingly, the replacement of the sniper might not be enough to solve VP these issues, which could mean that another change is necessary. Norbert might get hit once again. I think that could be the most possible option. And my friends, to stay updated on all the major roster shuffles, don't forget to follow the channel and hit the like button as well. Now let's get to the matches, the most exciting part for some. The thrilling Dacha finals, Eternal Fire versus Team Spirit. Yeah, you heard it right, it was Eternal Fire in the grand finals, not Mouse as many had expected. But before diving into the match itself, let's take a quick look at the team's perspectives. According to Woxic, if they managed to defeat Spirit, they could truly call themselves a tier 1 team. This statement served as a powerful motivation for self-improvement and a strong drive to win. On the other hand, Spirit's Shiro was kinda shocked because he expected to see Mouse in the finals. But let's not drag it out any longer and jump right into the game. The grand final was a best of 5 showdown, and today we had Nuke, Vertigo, Mirage, Anubis and Dust 2. Let's start in order with Spirit's pick, Nuke. The match began in favor of the Dragons, who secured 3 consecutive rounds on the T side. However, they soon ran into some trouble, but still managed to reach a decent score of 5-2. Then something seemed to shift for Spirit. They suddenly hit a brick wall against Eternal Fire's rock-solid defense. The Turks managed to turn the tide, winning 5 rounds in a row and gaining a slight lead by the end of the first half. However, their momentum didn't last. As soon as Spirit switched to the CT side, they demonstrated why exactly they decided to pick Nuke. They dominated, winning 8 rounds in a row without giving Eternal Fire a chance. And Magix sealed the deal by clutching a crucial 1v2. After such a tough loss on the first map, we moved to Vertigo, Eternal Fire's pick. This time, Eternal Fire started strong on T side, taking 3 in a row, but soon encountered some resistance. Spirit managed to string together 4 rounds, briefly taking the lead. What followed was a back-and-forth battle, which actually played into Spirit's hands, as it allowed them to secure more rounds on the weaker side. This close contest led to a tied first half, but once again, Spirit just repeated their performance from Nuke. In the second half, they just won 6 in a row and ultimately closed out the map. The Turks were shut down on their own pick. The third and final map was Mirage, and it started off with a clutch from Zontex in the pistol round. And again, the first half was extremely close. Both teams were trading rounds back and forth, leading to a logical 6-6. But as has been the pattern in this final, the game shifted entirely in Spirit's favor afterwards. They just dominated the second half, conceding only 3 rounds. Despite Major's efforts to save his team, the Turks were unable to mount a comeback. Spirit took the Dacha victory, with ease I should say, and it put them ahead in the race for the most LAN wins in this year, while other teams have only 2 tournament victories each. Donk secured his 3rd MVP out of 3 in Dacha tournaments. Thorin even remarked that Donk played with the rifle as well as Simple once did with the AWP, suggesting that he could soon be considered the greatest player in CS history. And you know what, for a Thorin stake, it's hard to disagree. Donk's rifle play is truly exceptional, and it puts him far ahead of many other players, even aim machines like Bit, Centaurus or Nico. The main challenge for Donk now is to maintain his form in the Armor and the Major, where Spirit could reach even greater heights. Dacha has also had a significant impact on the HLTV rankings, which as usual have shifted. The biggest movers are Eternal Fire, climbing 8 spots, and FlyQuest, who rose by 4 positions. Additionally, Spirit moved to the 3rd place, while Mouse and G2 dropped by 1. The biggest upsets were Sangal, who fell by 4 points, as well as NIP and BB Team, who dropped by 3. Other changes are insignificant, with the exception of B8, who re-entered the top 30. And that's all for today, my friends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button and leave a comment. Thank you for watching. We're not saying goodbye for a long time. See you soon.